The Ugly Duckling. Olavia, Florian called after the departing girl. She stopped instantly and turned sharply, as if she had been waiting for it. She looked at him expectantly, perhaps even with hope. Was she hoping he would say, "I love you"? For some time now, he had suspected that the girl was in love with him. It hadn't been easy to notice since she did nothing to show it. He understood that she simply didn't allow herself the chance. He, handsome, almost delicate, polite in manner yet mysterious, unarmed but always leading, clearly fascinated her. She must have guessed that he was of noble birth, perhaps even from the highest circles of the imperial court. And she? Though famous in her own way, a woman warrior, a sword for hire, she was no match for him. And then there was her face. Olavia was known as Half-Face because she covered the other half with a bronze mask. Florian knew she wore it to hide a terrible wound, and it wasn't just a cinematic scar on the cheek. He had seen it. The blow must have come from below, striking the jaw. The bone had been broken, and the pieces hadn't healed properly. Some fragments of the mandible were probably missing altogether. Her cheekbone had been crushed as well. The wound had never fully healed. Saliva still seeped through the split, and the girl had to wipe it away constantly. Even on the healthy side, her lips did not close completely, so she adjusted them with unconscious movements, which made her look as though she were constantly chewing something. He could see how terribly this tormented her. And then there was that unrequited love. It didn't take much to realize that the girl was suffering from deep depression. Now she was leaving, but Florian had a plan. He remained silent for a moment, then said, "You've done us an invaluable service, and you've never asked for anything in return." He used that vague "us" because, although everyone suspected it, the entire operation had never been officially endorsed by the Empire. "I've received my payment," she replied calmly. "That's nothing compared to what you've done," Florian said, and Olavia had done a lot. Many times her reckless charges had saved them when all seemed lost. She was what sociologists called a mule, an individual capable of dramatically tipping the balance of any operation. The success of every mission could usually be predicted with considerable precision from environmental models. The outcomes generally matched the forecasts, unless a mule appeared, an extraordinary individual who could change everything. Now the operation was over. It had ended in spectacular success, far easier than anyone had expected. The mule Olavia had played a major part in that success, and Florian wanted to reward her somehow. He also understood why Olavia had become a mule. She was simply looking for death. But, to be fair, she wasn't very good at it. When she threw herself into the middle of an enemy camp, slashing left and right, utterly disregarding her own defense, it usually ended with panic on the other side. The sight of a mad berserker with half her face hidden behind a metal mask was enough to make most enemies flee. And so, she kept on living. Florian feared that this time she might have had some truly effective plan, so he had to act. He had already decided to try to help her. Olavia smiled sadly and said philosophically, "My dear, I don't think I need anything anymore." After a pause, she added softly, "Farewell, Flori." Olavia, he hesitated, unsure how she would react. Finally, however, he finished, "We can fix your face." When he had decided to help her, he had first spoken with Dr. Maratel. At first, the doctor refused. Theoretically, performing cosmetic surgery on local inhabitants was forbidden and could cost him dearly, possibly even the suspension of his license. But Earth was far away, and the problem was near. When Florian explained the situation and the girl's service, the doctor eventually agreed. Based on the description, he even said it shouldn't be too difficult. The girl looked at Florian strangely. Her face seemed to shrink, and an unnatural grimace passed across her twisted lips. Florian immediately realized how shocking his words must have sounded. Olavia knew that her face could not be repaired by any known method. So if he claimed he could, and he couldn't lie so senselessly, it meant he had something at his disposal that wasn't natural. which in turn meant that the gentle, delicate boy she had fallen in love with was, in truth, something foreign, something beyond comprehension. He tried to ease the tension. Speaking calmly, almost clinically, as if describing a routine procedure rather than a miracle, he said, "If you decide to go through with it, the process will take several weeks. There will be some pain and discomfort. Some scars will remain. The new face won't be exactly like your original one. And there will be no more Olavia half-face. There will be no going back." The girl said nothing. She stood motionless, staring at him wide-eyed. Florian could almost see the storm of thoughts raging in her mind. He watched as on her proud, stone-like face a grimace of pain, disbelief and hope slowly formed. Then, suddenly, she dropped to her knees, crouched down and began to sob. He had never seen her cry before. Florian had first met Olavia when the operation to curb piracy in the Antar Delta began. The Delta did not lie within Imperial territory, so they did not want to deploy official forces there. However, Antar was one of the Empire's main trade routes, and the pirates had begun to grow bold. The local royal authority was weak and unable to deal with them. The plan also involved spreading a rumor that the entire operation had been organized, behind the king's back, by a powerful local trade guild. This was meant to provoke an internal conflict between the king and the guild, into which the Empire would later intervene, eventually taking control of the kingdom. Simulations indicated that the chances of success were very high, so they proceeded. To make the operation appear local, they decided to recruit a group of regional mercenaries. Olavia signed up as one of them. He remembered that the moment she entered, she fixed her gaze on him. A shadow of amusement, though a kind one, appeared on the visible half of her face. It was as if she wanted to say, "What's that sweet kid doing here?" Florian's youthful face, and perhaps his slender build, made him look much younger than he actually was. He did not speak once during the recruitment. In fact, he didn't say a word to any of the candidates. The entire interview was conducted by General Oleni. Olavia, clearly amused and a little intrigued, kept glancing at him. She probably assumed he was some young nobleman taking his first steps in service, merely there to observe. He, however, sat unmoved, pretending not to notice her attention. Seems she likes delicate men, he thought with mild amusement. And, as often happened with him, a Machiavellian thought soon followed. Perhaps that might come in handy someday. But it didn't. After the first briefing he conducted, her friendly amusement turned into genuine admiration. Later, during the operation itself, they went through a great deal together, so respect emerged, then fascination, and finally, love. At least that's what he thought. To prepare for the procedure, he and the doctor set up a sort of medical office in the local style, with modern diagnostic equipment hidden away. The actual clinic, the one with the modern dock, was located nearby. According to the plan, Olavia would be sedated in the first, ordinary-looking office, then transferred to the other for the actual operation. The doctor suspected that 2 separate procedures might be needed, but the exact scope would be determined only after the initial examination. They agreed on a day for the examination, and Florian personally brought Olavia in. The girl was visibly tense. He could tell she was on the verge of bolting. He asked if she wanted him to stay with her during the exam. She confirmed without hesitation. It was clear she needed his presence. Here, in this strange place filled with unfamiliar objects, she didn't feel nearly as confident as she did on the battlefield. The doctor greeted them in a cool, professional tone. Without unnecessary words, he asked Olavia to sit in the chair while he prepared for the examination. His detached, almost impersonal manner had a calming effect. After a moment, he approached and said neutrally, "Please remove the mask." Florian knew how much Olavia hated doing that, so he quietly stepped aside and pretended to check something, turning his back. The girl removed the mask. The doctor's expression didn't change in the slightest. True to his profession, he showed no surprise, letting the patient know that he had seen worse. He asked a few routine questions about how the injury had occurred, then calmly gave further instructions. Please open your mouth. Close it. Look left. Now up. He took out a few tools, illuminated something, and made some notes. It was clear that Olavia began to relax a little, reassured by his detached professionalism. Meanwhile, the doctor activated a hidden scanner and took a detailed image of her skull. After a short while, he stated that he now had a complete picture of the injury. "If you decide to go through with it, my dear, let me know," he added. "I'll need about 2 days to prepare. So, you can fix my face?" Olavia asked in a trembling voice, putting the mask back on. "Yes, but please remember that your face won't look exactly the same as before. Some marks will remain. However, you'll be able to walk around without a mask without attracting anyone's attention. The whole procedure will take about 2 weeks, and if a second operation is required, 3. You'll spend the first week in the hospice, and the first 2 days asleep. You won't be able to eat normally, so you'll need special feeding. During that time, your face will have to stay bandaged. How much will it cost?" Olavia asked quietly. "Nothing. It's already been taken care of," the doctor replied vaguely. "I don't want anyone to pay for me," she said stubbornly, glancing at Florian, who was still pretending to check something behind her. "We're not talking about money," the doctor clarified without really explaining anything. Olavia looked around uncertainly. "So, if I decide now, we can start in 2 days?" she asked softly, her voice trembling slightly as if she sensed the gravity and finality of the moment. "Yes," the doctor said impassively. "All right," she said after a pause. "I'll do it." "Excellent. In that case, please come in the morning, 2 days from now. And remember, for the first week you won't be allowed to leave the hospice." "Understood," Olavia replied, standing up. She approached Florian, who finally stopped pretending to be busy, and simply said, "Thank you. It's too early for that." Florian smiled faintly. "Do you have somewhere to stay?" "Yes," she said. They said goodbye, and Olavia left.